censorious thug.
I have my hands on some Canadian Ministry of Truth documents. These are some briefing notes, what they call advice to the minister, prepared by ministerial staff that we filed for through access to information on the government's media bailout. The majority of these documents are from way back in 2020, so just a couple of years ago. We wanted to dig deeper, especially after seeing this report from our friends over at True North on just one small portion of the series of media bailouts, which are estimated to be tallied at over $600 million. Look at this. Media executives who were given control of a federal grant program for the journalism sector gave their own companies generous payouts. Now, according to Blacklock's reporter, media executives sitting on the local journalism initiative judging panel have approved their own organizations for grants to hire new employees. Startup news outlets were not allowed to apply for grants. The $50 million local journalism initiative was created by Heritage Canada back in 2019 with control given to organizations within the press industry. Several managers of prominent mainstream news outlets sit on the judging panel. One panel member is the Winnipeg Free Press publisher Bob Cox. The Free Press was awarded grants to hire 2 new reporters, including a climate change correspondent. We will tell stories that need to be on the public record from around the province. We will do it on the farm. We will do it on the oil patch. We will do it where the permafrost is melting, the Free Press wrote on its application to the panel. Now, in case you were wondering why you see so much climate change journalism now completely shoehorned into your local newspaper, well, this is why. Some of the bailouts for local news were used to hire journalists to scare your community into caring about something no one really does by saturating the news ether with so many stories about the glories of a carbon tax that you finally just capitulate and give in. They basically badger you into liberalism. Anyway, let's keep going from this article in True North. Cox, who chaired the newspaper lobby's pursuit of a bailout from the federal government, told MPs in 2019 that the push for federal support was not for his own interest. These measures have been called a bailout by some. I would suggest this crowd knows very little about the business of operating a newspaper, he told the Commons Finance Committee. There has also been the suggestion newspapers will be beholden to the federal government, not independent, and more likely to give favorable coverage. Well, I have not noticed this happening. Well, Bob Cox, even the bureaucrats writing advice to the minister in the documents I have were sounding alarm bells that the media bailouts would contaminate media coverage. Not that the minister cared at all. I think that might actually be the point of these bailouts, to contaminate the coverage. Now let's look at the documents I have a little closer, and we'll publish them all for you in full so you can look at them for yourself. Don't take my word for it. They are as much your documents as they are mine. And that's because we only have access to them through your generous crowdfunding donations at our special investigative journalism website, rebelinvestigates.com. Let's start on page 40. We can see the government's definitions of terms like online platforms, news publishers, and misinformation. To them, news publishers are persons that produce news content for making available in some format, including online. But as you know, they are prickly about giving us that distinction. News content is factually based information on or account of recent or important events and created by a news publisher. Again, something they are remiss to say that we do here at Rebel News. Misinformation, according to the government, is false or inaccurate information that is communicated regardless of an intent to deceive. Now, I think we used to just call that being wrong on the internet before being wrong was made illegal or cancel-worthy. But here it doesn't just mean being wrong. It's being wrong according to the government. Being defined as wrong according to the government is misinformation. even if, as they say here, it's an accident, even if you didn't actually mean to disagree with the government. Now, that disagreeing with the government is worthy of censorship and more regulations. Misinformation also amounts to asking good questions the government doesn't want you to ask. Remember our exchange with Alexa Lavoie and Justin Trudeau? Here, remember this?
Bonjour, M. Trudeau, Alexa pour Rebel News. Donc, M. Trudeau, je vais revenir rapidement sur ce qui s'est passé hier. Vous avez diabolisé l'un des rares médias qui ne reçoit pas d'argent du gouvernement. Vous avez exprimé votre opinion en disant que nous propageons la désinformation. Si c'était vrai et si c'était le cas, la Cour fédérale ne nous aurait pas permis d'être ici aujourd'hui. Je suis moi-même scientifique et je me base sur les faits. Ma question est la suivante. L'Israël est l'un des pays les plus vaccinés au monde. Ils sont rendus maintenant à leur 4e rappel de vaccin. Ils ne considèrent plus que ceux qui ont reçu 2 doses de vaccin sont pleinement vaccinés. Ma question est, plusieurs Canadiens ne désirent pas avoir un rappel de vaccin. Allez-vous leur enlever leurs privilèges reliés au passeport vaccinal? Et aurez-vous l'obligeance de répondre à ma question en tant que Premier ministre ou allez-vous encore diaboliser mon média?
J'ai partagé ma perspective sur ton organisation hier soir. J'ai plus rien à dire.
Ça démontre bien qui vous êtes. Merci.
Okay, back into these documents, let's look at page 56. We see some interesting comments that are partially blurred out along the side of the document, but they're still somewhat legible. They're editing the document here in real time, including someone here who obviously doesn't really want to progress in their career with the federal government because they are actually telling the truth. We know how the federal government feels about truth tellers, don't we? Anyway, this person, God help them in their career, is raising concerns that the imposition of a levy on linking to news articles, as is now proposed in Bill C-18, that's the Online News Act, which has a clause in it that requires social media companies to pay for merely facilitating news access, linking to news access. Well, this person feels that it could undermine negotiations between tech giants and media companies. And they also raise concerns that the incentives could prevent certain media outlets from receiving the market correction they so rightly deserve from the public for being awful and bad at the thing they exist to do, journalism. They're worried, this person, that it would artificially, quote, artificially structure the marketplace and create, quote, perverse incentives. Perverse incentives. Now, that's a pretty strong phrase, but it's accurate and true. It's the exact thing that Bob Cox from the Winnipeg Free Press told the government could never happen.
That was an excerpt from my daily TV-style show called The Ezra Levant Show. Each weekday, I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview a fascinating guest. I read some fan mail or hate mail, depends on which I like more, and we end with a video of the day. You can get it all at rebelnewsplus.com.